Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Emily Campagno, Juan Williams, Lawrence Jones, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City. This is The Five. Let's get after it. All right, the war of words hits a whole new level as President Trump unleashes on the media in one of his fiercest attacks yet. The president slamming much of the press on Twitter today as, quote, totally dishonest. He says, don't care for the truth, writing fake books and using anonymous sources that are pure fiction. This comes after Trump blasted CNN and veteran journalist Carl Bernstein over the network's Trump Tower report. The president saying the network has been caught in a major lie. CNN and Bernstein firing back at the president, saying they stand by their reporting. Greg, lots of tweets overnight.
Lots of tweets. I'm glad he was tweeting about this and not about the funeral. But Trump is like a heckler behind the dugout. He can sense the central weakness of the pitcher. And in this case, the pitcher is CNN. And he won't stop until the guy throws the mitt down and runs to the stands to fight. And he's getting that. And what he's doing is he's giving CNN the CNN treatment, because they made that meeting story into a relentless bombshell. Every newscaster was having a conniption about it. And now that story seems to be falling apart, and Trump is giving CNN the relentless falling apart story, and he won't let go. So now I think it's even Steven. And last point, whenever I get like a little bit upset or annoyed about the tweeting, I remember that the media spent decades punching at conservatives. For decades, probably since the Vietnam War. Now somebody is punching back and they're crying foul. So it's hard for me to sympathize for the media when they're complaining, since they and the left have been essentially interchangeable since Vietnam. We're going to need a lot of Trump tweets to kind of even the score, I think.
Wow, you know what,
there might be a lot where that came from, Juan.
You know, first of all,
you didn't like that one?
No, I didn't. I mean, even if I was on the right, I would say, oh, so Rush Limbaugh to William F. Buckley didn't exist. There's no conservative thought expressed in
Nothing
America.
like this.
Oh, not like
coming at you. Like, I mean, obviously Twitter's a new vehicle, so that's different.
Okay. Yeah, but to me, what was incredible was in the middle of a funeral for a statesman, John McCain, what's our president doing? He's not saying, oh, you know, my thoughts, my prayers with family. No. He's attacking CNN. He's so obsessed with them that right in the middle of a funeral.
They're obsessed with him, too.
Yeah. I don't like this, because it's not only the story, Lawrence, because the story is
lie.
Well, he tells a lot of, I mean, I'm just saying
that this has been the media narrative that they are there to hold the president accountable.
They should be.
And part of the reason why they are losing credibility with the American people, why their approval rate is lower than Congress, is because they don't tell the truth sometimes. And it's a simple fix. Just tell the American people, hey, we messed up on this. We issue a retraction.
But
they didn't say that.
But they're not doing that, Emily, because CNN says they're standing by their story.
Exactly.
And I imagine that this, having gone to journalism school, that's because they say they have another source. And it might not be true, but I don't imagine that they are totally lying about this.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest issue with this is the fact that, of course, the president can take issue with any organization that he thinks is skewing coverage of him, that has called his a malignant administration, whatever. But I think at a certain point, it's beneath the office of the presidency. And to me, like everything, it's distracting. And when this becomes the story, then it's totally detracting from what really is the story to me, which is the fact that this large-scale investigation is being undertaken right now with our tax dollars. And it's either pursuing nefarious conduct or it's furthering nefarious conduct. And we have a ton of unanswered questions about intelligence gathering protocol and breaks in chain of command and the interplay between the DOJ and FBI and Congress and this administration, and whether uncorroborated, unverified information is being relied upon by law enforcement and potentially the courts, and then being leaked tactically by officials in the government that are rogue. So to me, these are all the larger questions. And when the story becomes the social media warfare or media warfare, it just does everyone a disservice.
Well, I think that's all a great conspiracy theory, because I think if you're going to say that so many judges, the FBI run by a Republican, the Department of Justice run by a Republican, but here's the thing to me, he's going on about alternative facts, fake news. Oh, gee, I wonder what the FBI had to say this week when he picked up on some conservatives, report, oh, Hillary Clinton's emails were hacked by the Chinese. The FBI comes out, I mean, I guess at some political risk to themselves given this president's antics, and says, no, there's no evidence that Hillary Clinton's emails were ever hacked. And then he goes after...
By the Chinese.
By the Chinese.
But he didn't go to journalism school.
Well, let me just finish. Then he goes after Lester Holt on the old interview.
I know, God forbid Lester Holt.
Well, and what he says is, oh, Lester Holt fudged that. This is the first time we've ever heard that there's any So exactly who has a trouble telling the truth? I think it's not NBC, not CNN. I think it's one guy named Donald Trump.
But Juan, I think most of America understands that Trump plays fast and loose with the facts. But he's generally directionally right.
What politician doesn't?
Exactly.
They all exaggerate every single thing. The question is, though, is it the media's job to be doing this? I mean, CNN literally calls him a racist every single night. And so what is the president? And they do this at every Republican. They did this to George Bush as well. The difference with Donald Trump is that he responds, and his base loves it. There are some times that I would agree that the president gets off base with his tweets. I think we can all agree with that. But in large, when it comes to the media, it's a winning issue for the president. That's why he continues to fight them.
I don't know that it's a winning issue. We'll see. But, I mean, to me, it's like he just is a snowflake president. He's got a grievance, and he can't get beyond.
Oh, I hope he's watching right now. I feel a tweet coming at you, Juan.
You know what?
I feel a tweet.
Greg, I want to give him a safe space. A safe space. How about this? Send him to college.
How about, okay, the 1970s, I have this prediction. The 1970s will be known for disco. The 80s was known for, like, Betamax.
Reagan.
Yeah, oh, Reagan. Well, or big hair. The 90s was grunge. I think the teens, which is what this is, will be known for Trump's tweets. This is the thing that everybody looks back at as the thing that kind of...
It's a decade of Twitter.
Yeah, and everybody will be laughing about it because it'll be something that either came and went or established.
Can I ask you something about so on your podcast yesterday, you interviewed his name...
Jerry Eisenberg.
And one of the things, this is a great podcast, by the way. He did all the creations for.
He did the Jetsons, Flintstones, Scooby-Doo.
And one of the things he said that he loved the most is working on the Flintstones because he could. the Jetsons because he could use his imagination. And basically, he invented Skype.
Yeah,
the whole video or FaceTime. Basically.
Yeah.
But he didn't invent Twitter.
No, he didn't.
I mean, that is the one thing that nobody saw coming.
Yeah, I did. I did. You know what? No. When I was in second grade, I used to write on the bathroom wall anonymous stuff about people in my class. That's Twitter.
That is also another point of this. That the president is complaining. The president is complaining about anonymous sources, which every president complains about, but every White House asks to be quoted on background for certain things. He talks about a fake book. I imagine that could be Bob Woodward's book that is coming out September 11th.
Yeah, you think that's why he's attacking Bernstein?
Fire and Fury, or I don't know. But also, remember, he also used to be his own anonymous source here in New York City.
No, that was great.
But I think, but I feel like this is why he's used to it. He's used to driving the narrative and asking these questions. And I don't understand why he is expected, again, I think there's a certain amount of decorum associated with the office that we'd like him to hold, but I don't understand why challenging the coverage and challenging these questions means that he should have a target on him for doing so, and regardless of the method, because I do think it's important to ask those questions and for him to say, look, why aren't you covering this, or cover this fairly, or why am I not getting the benefit of the doubt when X has happened and Y has happened?
Well, he could also, Twitter's a great tool for him, and one of the things he could have tweeted today was, check this out. 51% of workers in America say they are happy. That's the first time, and I can't remember how many years.
Why doesn't he do that?
Why doesn't he do that?
Because it's not him. You know what it is? Trump was radicalized by something, okay, because he was a Democrat for a long time. He was pro-choice, liberal in many things. He was radicalized. What was he radicalized by? Us. Fox News. When Fox News happened,
started making sense.
He started watching Fox News.
And the world starts to make sense.
Sense to him, and then so all he's doing, Juan, is what we do, which is we bash the media. So he's turned the White House into kind of like an alternative Fox show where he sits there and he rips
the breaks, Greg.
I thought you were trying to help him.
No, I'm actually saying it's kind of refreshing.
Kind of refreshing?
The media
you know what it reminds me of? What? You know Chuck Todd at NBC said? It's like one of those old guys going down the sidewalk mumbling to himself, except he has a million-plus Twitter followers.
He's just jealous of his hair.
Oh, yeah.
Lawrence will give you the last word.
Well, I think that part of this is that the president once had a great relationship with the media as well.
Yeah.
And they turned on him. All the way into the primary, they all wanted him to win. And now
they all wanted him to do interviews.
Exactly. And everyone was screaming to cover him. Everybody wanted the latest interview. And then they flipped on him. And so I think the president is also ticked off about that.
Yep, indeed. All right, President Trump's team just took out one of the most dangerous terrorists since bin Laden, but few noticed. Greg has the details next.
Just trying to break Some days you just get.
While the media feasts on crooked lawyers and porn stars, one story slips by. According to the UN, Al-Qaeda's chief bomb maker was killed during a U.S. drone strike late last year. Ibrahim Hassan al-Asiri is his name. If this is the first you heard of this, it's because to the media, tax returns are more important than terror. A true irony. The Trump administration has been so good at killing terrorists that the media can focus that much more on hating the Trump administration. But this progress shouldn't be much comfort. What was al-Asiri known for? The marriage of technology and terror. He was the Thomas Edison of mayhem. Bombs hidden in printer cartridges and electronics that could sneak by scanners and dogs. Non-metallic suicide vests. Underwear bombs. Remember those? He didn't just design them. He also trained other designers who are still alive and ticking. Meaning Al-Qaeda and ISIS are still coming for you and me, but that pales in comparison to a porn star payoff. For the longest time, we've heard about climate change, but terror change matters more. Even when terrorists fail, they evolve, even if their goal is to return us to the 7th century. That will always be the next really big headline. So we should be thankful for the intel that we get from our allies and our national security folks who remain vigilant while we call each other racist and complain about tweets. Lucky for us, these are great people who aren't distracted by thousands of hacks who give us poop and call it a scoop.
They should have gotten a raise.
You know, Dana, I like to rhyme, especially if I can include the word poop.
But yes, can I compliment another line though?
Oh, sure.
Still alive and ticking?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Very good line.
Yeah, thank you. It is weird, though. The problem with complacency, the problem with success is complacency. And we talk about this prior to 9/11. We were talking about Chandra Levy.
Yeah.
Remember that story?
Shark Week.
Shark Week, that's right.
But also, I just know of a story on September 10th, 2001, the White House communications team stayed late at the White House, so about 10 p.m., working on this big problem because the New York Times was going to have a front page story the next day, and it was going to be a doozy. It was going to be bad. It was going to make your whole week terrible. And it was the Dick Cheney Energy Task Force.
Right.
Anybody remember that story? There's a big scandal because he allowed somebody who had actually worked in the energy industry to brief him on energy policy. 9/11 happens the next morning, and you never talked about the Dick Cheney Energy Task Force again.
Yeah.
Because it was important. I mean, we are living in good times, and that's what happens. And your point about the intel community, one of the most important things that we can ask of them is to be vigilant, but also to have wild imaginations. Like imagine, what is the craziest thing and the meanest and most evil thing that these terrorists would want to do to us, and that's what we have to prepare for.
Yeah, that's why Hollywood helps, because they come up with great plot lines. I remember New York Times, 9/11 that day. Do you know who their guest columnist was? Bill Ayers.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
A little piece of trivia there. All right, Lawrence, you're a libertarian.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm too? Do I have too much terror on my mind, or do you think that there can never be enough vigilance?
No, I actually believe in a strong national defense. I just believe that every government agency likes to waste and abuse their money, and I don't think the military is exempt from that. One thing I will say about the president, part of the reason why we don't hear about the military so much, even though he has to, so much respect for our generals, is that he said he didn't want to talk about his military strategy.
Yeah, that's true.
And he made that one of his things. Even time members of the press ask about the military, he'll tell them, no, I'm not going to talk about that. He's had great success in it. And part of it is because before he got into office, President Obama really didn't listen to the generals.
No. Except when they were on shows.
Exactly.
And the rules of engagement.
And the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
And so I think this president is going to lead. This is one of the issues that people are going to remember him for, is having a strong military.
Yeah. But it only takes one thing, Juan.
Yep.
Takes only one. Terrorists only have to be good once.
By the way,
yes.
As we do this mission accomplished segment.
Yes.
I'm saying mission. That wasn't the point.
I'm saying mission unaccomplished.
Oh no, but wait a second. I thought you were the one. Every day you say to me, "Hey, look at all these great things Trump has done."
Yes.
And I believe your number one is defeated ISIS.
Yes.
Oh, but then when I read the newspapers, I see they say ISIS.
I say decimated.
Is back.
That's 1/10.
The Inspector General, 28,000 in Syria and Iraq.
Yes, it's true.
Right? And the Pentagon says they're well positioned and growing. And I think, but gee, Greg said that they've been defeated by
I said they were decimated. There's a difference.
To speak to everyone's point here, too, you guys are absolutely right. And this is part of why we have a tactic going on there and a strategy that's working, which is the fact that the president pushed the decision-making capabilities in the hands of the tactical and strategic commanders. And that's why now, for example, in Afghanistan, the strategy is surgical airstrikes and counterintelligence. And it's working, and there's ebbs and flows, and some weeks are better than others. And after 17 years, obviously, it's a bit exhausting. But members of the military refer to it as mowing the lawn over there. And they basically say it's our constant presence and our efforts against its counter-terrorism efforts there, but we're supporting the Afghan government that we helped instate and to maintain the chaos between Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the Taliban, and the Afghan government. But the bottom line is, from what we have and what we inherited, we absolutely are in the best position possible, even in the face of good and bad weeks. And it's because of pushing that autonomy to the commanders who can actually make the decision thoughtfully.
Thank you, Obama. Thank you. And thank you, Deep State. Thank you, Deep State, National Intelligence.
Thank you, Ronald Reagan.
That's able to find, because remember,
let's go way back.
Weren't you going after Obama for using drones to attack people?
No, I've always been pro-drone.
Just what you said.
I'm pro-dromal.
Intelligence, sending intelligence in, and we do it in a way that is specific and targeted.
Exactly.
And we have been having success, and thank goodness we got this guy, because he makes it impossible for me to get through security.
That was after the August 2017 campaign. So this thing that you just cited, that was after President Trump took over, and that was his surge. I mean, granted, the surge occurred under President Obama, but this was a campaign, a targeted campaign. That was the guy that was.
I'm saying that, but the strategy was basically Obama's strategy.
Always Obama's.
Our allies are helping us as well. Don't forget, like the UN announces. But I would also say, President Trump just announced today that he's canceling the 2.1% annual raise for federal employees. That includes those intel people that you're talking about that do all that work for us.
Lawrence, respond to that as a libertarian.
Don't you dare.
All of them need to be cut.
Nope.
They need to live like American people.
I disagree.
No.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
But the president could say, look how much better the economy is under my leadership. Look at all this tax revenue coming into the Treasury. I will now give this raise because Obama starved you of these raises, and that's why federal employees, you should love me.
That's why.
Even if you don't, that's fine.
So blame Obama.
But here it is. We give a tax cut to the richest people in America, but we refuse to pay federal workers, including those who kill this man. How absurd.
They also have better health care than us, too.
Oh, stop.
All right, a major debate reignited over a report about the federal government's secret war on weed.
The table's about to explode. Here's the topic. Is the White House about to wage a war on pot? According to a BuzzFeed report, the Trump administration is starting a committee to counter pro-marijuana messaging. 14 federal agencies working on collecting data showing the negative aspects of weed in an effort to try to balance what they think is an unbalanced public debate on the drug. But some activists, some Democratic lawmakers in states where recreational pot is now legal, they're pushing back, calling it a misguided smear squad led by President Trump. What do you say?
All right, here's my two biggest issues with this. The first is that the reconciliation between the state and federal approach, it needs to be addressed. And right now there's too much confusion with law enforcement especially, and just with citizens. And obviously we have a bipartisan bill that has been introduced that's making its way through the Senate, and I'm all for that. My second biggest issue is the waste of resources in the criminal justice system being spent pursuing this. So of drug offenders in the prison system, about 10% are for cannabis, and their sentences are statistically the shortest. So think about how much we're wasting arresting, prosecuting, incarcerating these criminals, which are essentially low-level, non-violent in that, I'm not talking about the exceptions, in that pot, no pun intended, to put them behind bars. And to me, the larger national conversation, especially coming out with the White House's recent commitment to it, to a criminal justice reform, it doesn't make sense with A, this coming out, and B, kind of as Senator Gardner said, putting the ketchup back in the bottle. It's a little bit too late for that. And I just think moving forward nationally that it would behoove us to be as efficient as possible and to realize, again, the amount of waste and abuse that's being spent pursuing what really is it's a non-ripple effect.
So, Lawrence, Emily makes the point. She says, why is this a priority? Why is the White House putting energy and thought and 14 federal agencies on this case? What do you think?
Because the president wants them to.
Well, no, I don't think this. Yeah. I don't think this is the president. I think this is Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions has never stood on this issue. He hates weed. But if you're anti-opioid, then you should be pro-marijuana.
Because picture behind your head.
It's just like gleaming.
Can you take the shot? Like this is a great picture, Lawrence.
Again,
you are truly a pothead.
The president is a practical person. He realizes that we shouldn't be spending money on this, prosecuting people on this. He realizes he's pro-veteran. This has stopped the veteran suicide in many of the states where it's been passed. He's anti-opioid. This prevents people from going to those addictions. So the president is a logical person, but his attorney general is anti-criminal justice reform and anti-weed.
Wow.
But I think the president is definitely all of those things. Yeah. But also, if you listen to the president's speech, like he doesn't like drugs. He doesn't do them himself. He doesn't think it's a good idea. He thinks there's better ways.
Wait. I don't think he drinks alcohol.
No, I know he doesn't.
He also
made a
hasn't been
decision.
educated
But
about
I think that this whole committee thing, it wasn't just about like turning back all of those very progressive and smart things, that, especially for veterans and treating PTSD. It's about just not having any counter programming to say that smoking marijuana, it's not like taking a vitamin.
I have to interject here.
Yes, I know.
Because I have 6 pages of notes to get through. All right, just because you don't like something doesn't make it wrong. Number 2, the White House does believe that the prevailing pro-marijuana narrative is too one-sided, but that's after 70 years of it being one-sided in the opposite direction.
Sure.
Do you remember the demon weed? It's a gateway drug. A lot of this stuff had no statistics to back it up. So what we're trying to do is to reach a reasonable midpoint where we are with alcohol, where we know that it offers benefits, but it can be abused. You shouldn't be smoking pot in the morning. You treat it like a martini after work. Once you're successful, so you're not a dirtbag. Everything with benefits that offers relief in life comes and alleviate suffering. Whether it's opioids or marijuana can be abused, but the state should not be involved in legislating your oblivion. As a human being, you have an individual right to ease your own suffering. It's a mistake. I agree with you. This is more Sessions than Trump. I think Trump could be persuaded. And by the way, I don't see much evidence that the legalization has led to more violent behavior. Most of the violent behavior, the increases in the country are in Chicago and Baltimore, which is not about pot. It might be gangland drug.
Or it's about fentanyl.
Right.
I mean,
fentanyl, or just drug warfare, which is based on illegal drugs.
But I do think there are communities in the country, especially like where I went to college in Pueblo, Colorado. It's not been all sunshine and daisies out there when they move forward on legalization.
Would be if you smoked.
Might be. I asked Lawrence in the break, and he asked me not to ask him, but I'm going to ask him on. Would you It's a little bit of counter programming is good, but maybe not. I understand the whole thing about 70 years of one way, and they're also finding some really great benefits. But if you look at what taxpayers are having to pay for increased hospital stays.
But we do that with alcohol,
right?
You know.
Well, right. So should we add another one?
I don't think I think marijuana either. While they're increasing the hospital,
it's not killing anybody. I mean, marijuana is not killing the
users. You don't have overdoses of marijuana.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can find a single overdose. Maybe the viewers can find one. I don't think there is. I don't think there's a marijuana. I don't think it's a marijuana overdose.
Back me up.
Well, what deserves our attention too nationally, I think, is more the fentanyl pouring over the border through, especially the shipping system. And our United States Postal Service has an exemption against full screening. China is literally flooding the country with fentanyl, and we are struggling to come up with an overdose statistic.
Senator Rob Portman has a bill about this very thing to try to prevent it, and it's moving forward in the Senate, and it actually might be able to move forward in the House as well this fall.
By the way, I just wanted to conclude on this note. I think a lot of this is acting as if, it's those young thugs out there who are doing marijuana. Let me tell you, the marijuana legalization, I think, is being pushed by our seniors, by people who, just want to have
veterans.
Yes, I'm just telling you. So I don't know where you think it's Sessions. I'm worried that you're just attacking Sessions for Trump. But I don't know that the president.
Well, that's how he gets back at Sessions. Make him pass criminal justice reform. Make him cooperate with these local states, and I guarantee you he'll resign by himself.
Oh, is that? Wow.
I'm telling you. That's how much he hates weed.
Wow. I think maybe you're having a smoky dream there. The Democratic governor of New York taking swipes at ICE and President Trump during a testy primary debate yesterday. Controversial remarks for you to hear straight ahead.
Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along.
Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up. Wow. Level up, level up.
It's the new liberal litmus test. Democrats are replacing the battle of ideas with a competition to see who hates President Trump and his policies more. That's what happened during the tense face-off between New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and his opponent, Cynthia Nixon.
Today, you have to fight Donald Trump, who is the main risk to the state of New York.
I would say that Donald Trump did tweet at you about whether or not America was great, and you backed down pretty quickly. You stood up to him about as well as he stands up to Putin.
On immigration, nobody has stood up to Donald Trump the way I have. New York State is the state that says we will not cooperate with ICE. They're a bunch of thugs.
Wow. The showdown also getting downright nasty with personal attacks.
My opponent lives in the world of fiction. I live in the world of fact. Let's just do a few facts, okay? The subway system is owned by New York City. The subway
MTA has been controlled by the state since 1965.
Can you stop interrupting? Can you stop interrupting?
Can you stop lying?
Yeah. As soon as you do.
Wow. A lot of craziness happening. One, I'm going to throw this to you. It seems to me, as a former Obama supporter in 2008, that the Democrats had a message. With him, it was hope and change and positivity, getting young people involved with the movement. But it seems now that the Democrats don't have a message, and they're trying to out-Trump Trump. So what is you guys' message?
Oh, I think there's a strong message talking about the midterms. But the thing that you were picking up on, I think you were right, is they compete in terms of their animosity towards Trump. And I think it's sad to say they imitate a lot of the Trump-type behavior. I remember Trump at his debates would talk about Lion Ted, Lil Marco, and Low Energy Jeb and all that. Remember that? And I think they might as well have said that, stop interrupting, you stop lying. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like schoolyard again, and it's, Trumpian. But I was hoping for a better debate, Lawrence. I thought this was not a great debate, this business about, first of all, how hot was the room?
Yeah.
I want to know, how hot was the room? But it seems to me that coming out of this, I thought Cynthia Nixon did a better job than I would have ever guessed.
She did.
That was a surprise.
Emily, it didn't seem like the American people or New York residents got what they wanted in that debate. They didn't hear about what the candidates were typically for. Part of the whole Trump effect that I think people discount is that it's real. That's him. That's who he is as a person. And many of the other candidates in the Republican process that have tried to be like Trump and that are inauthentic didn't work for them. Do you think it's going to work for the Democrats in this race?
I don't, and I hear what you're saying, and I think it's interesting that you brought that up, because as candidates are bringing up that strategy of who's more anti-Trump, well, what happens to the voters if and when they get elected, and then if their only status is resistance, well, then how can we rely on them to get anything done when we all know there has to be some type of balance and bargaining once you assume office? And I think when I watched the debate, I just felt like it was like when you put your dog in a rabbit costume for Halloween. It's like it's still a dog. It's not a rabbit. And that's how I feel about Governor Cuomo and these people who are these Democratic candidates who are being pushed more progressive because of their more progressive challengers. But in reality, they're just going to go right back. I mean, within 2 months of Cynthia Nixon declaring, Cuomo literally reversed public positions on recreational marijuana and plastic bags in New York and public housing and restoring voter rights to felons, and on all of these issues, while at the same time threatening unions and community groups if they ever gave money to anyone supporting Nixon, then you're going to lose my number. Yeah. It's like you're still the entrenched politician that these progressives are arguing against. So again, I mean, you're still just the dog. You're not the rabbit costume.
Dana, there was a lot of anti-ICE sentiment. And, you know, even at Campus Reform, we reported on them at UC Berkeley telling kids to report to the police.
I mean, I don't think they got the memo that earlier this week there was that AP poll that said like only 21% of Democrats think that's a good idea. So I think they waste their time on that, but it does get them press coverage. I make a prediction here. I think this primary is going to be a lot closer than people think. I think that he gave her a chance to have a lot of headlines. The headlines for him were terrible. She got a ton of free airtime. Debates can move votes. If you think about how, go back to New Hampshire of 2016 when Marco Rubio and Christie went at it, and that absolutely hurt Marco Rubio in that debate. So it can make a difference. Cuomo looked thin-skinned. He looked very rusty. I'll tell you something else about her. Women sometimes have a hard time when they're up against a man because their voice drives people crazy. Her voice does not drive people crazy. They're used to it from television, and also she's got a lower register. It's an important thing for her. And de Blasio was able to go after Cuomo, and it was a very effective attack on the subway system. So watch. She might actually do better than you think.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you say drive crazy, you mean it's because when they have to raise their voice to get past the guy.
Hillary Clinton, right? It like drove people crazy. Sarah Palin, they would say like, well, maybe she needs a voice coach because it's hard. It's just when you get animated, you tend to increase your octave.
I was listening to Andrew Cuomo, and I was trying to figure out who is the smarter Cuomo brother, and that's like saying, what is the squarest Frisbee? Right. But, you know, you saw two candidates out there. One, she was definitely better, no question. But two candidates were diminishing the importance of law and order, which is what Trump won on. So you had ICE being thugs, and then she had made a comment about how law and order doesn't need as much input as other things. And I think it's because they have the luxury of the resurgence of law and order for the past 3 decades in New York City, which has dramatically reduced crime, made the place safer. So now that they've had the cure, they don't need the cure anymore. That's not how it works.
Well, let me just say before we close, you know, Gilliam's upset in Florida against establishment Democrats. Remember, he was down double digits. And guess what? Octavio Cortez, Alexandra, here in New York, was down 35 points to Joe Crowley. And guess what? Nixon is down 35 to Andrew Cuomo.
Well, it's definitely anybody's race.
I'm telling you.
She was, the one thing is she was likable, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
That's
what
it was.
Point.
Yeah.
Up next. Are kids' games like Red Rover really too inappropriate for school? A state's no fun list that's sparking outrage. Ahead.
What up? Now you're all in big trouble.
Outrage in Alabama after games that most of us grew up playing, like dodgeball, tag, and musical chairs, were told to be off limits. The state superintendent is now trying to calm down angry parents, saying it's up to public schools to decide their own physical education activities. Okay, you guys, so apparently 2 years ago, the state of Alabama issued guidance and said that during physical education classes at these schools, you literally could not play like tag and Red Rover and dodgeball and these fun, normal games. And some of the reasons cited were, you know, it makes people feel uncomfortable, they get hurt, they're left out, whatever. But the superintendent now came in and he basically was like, look, this wasn't on my watch. You guys do you. So, okay, here's my question. So, Greg.
Yes.
Growing up on the peninsula, what was recess like for you? I feel like I can imagine you being a total maniac and everyone picking you.
We were at an unusual school. We had a fight club where we pit one child against another child in a bare-knuckled cage match, and the one that survived could then have lunch, and then they didn't have to pit. It was ugly. Only 2 kids made it out of that school. I think they should change dodgeball so that everybody gets a ball, and instead of throwing it at people, you just hug it in a dark room listening to soft jazz.
That's nice.
Wasn't that nice? Yes.
Okay, so Dana, what about you? What was your favorite recess activity in Colorado?
I was thinking about this morning.
You were getting high a lot.
I was with the smokers. No, I wasn't. That was Lawrence. No, not the smokers. Mom, no.
No.
I'm not. Mom, he's not. Okay.
Taking strange rides on planes.
Do you remember tetherball?
Yes,
Yeah.
love tetherball.
Tetherball was like, and I liked it so much that my mom and dad put one in our backyard in Parker, Colorado, where we grew up. I also loved Foursquare.
Foursquare was great. Should have been an Olympic sport.
And I also did love kickball. I was actually pretty good. I was pretty fast.
Wow.
Fast runner.
I can see that, like zipping around.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lawrence, in Dallas, what was the scene like for you?
There was a scene.
Describe it for us.
Well, we dominate in all sports, and so everyone is getting prepared for the whole sports routine. But honestly, though, I think eliminating these activities is why the stress level for these kids are going so up. They have no diversity.
Outlet.
They have no, to get rid of that. And, you know, maybe you fall down and you scratch your knee and all that, but you get back up and you go. But right now, everybody wants a participation trophy. Everybody wants to be, coddled. And I think it's just destroying the next generation.
Yeah. So in Brooklyn, Juan, growing up, A, set the scene, and B, what changes do you see there? I know you love your grandkids, you talk about them a lot. What changes do you see between your recess activities and how you grew up and what they're engaged in now?
Well, I don't think I've ever been in their playground, but I think,
Thank God, Juan.
but I think things are more organized now, as we see by what the Alabama School District was trying to do, because, I like dodgeball and Red Rover and all that stuff. I thought that was a whole lot of fun. But I do know that people got embarrassed, even humiliated, and once in a while somebody would end up with a knot on their head because they got hit in the wrong spot or fell on their face, etc. So, I guess I don't know if it's because we're a more litigious society and the school district wants to protect itself. I don't know. But I don't think this is about kids being snowflakes today, because
Oh, yeah, it is.
In
They're just
Brooklyn,
soft.
kids would fight and kids still fight. I mean, that just goes on. I prefer, by the way, things like, races, stickball. I mean, we used to play those games too. What's wrong with that?
Well, the other thing I loved were the
monkey bars?
Gymnastic bars. Well, monkey bars, but not the monkey, like the ones that you climb across, the monkey bars, but just the solid one across, because I could do a daddy backflip, no, a granddaddy backflip, like whatever.
Yeah,
what was that called?
I literally was, I can throw up just thinking
It would
about
give my mom a
sitting
heart
over the
attack
top.
all the time, because it was like the bottom was just gravel. But
yeah, but you know what
play
they
with
have?
dirt.
Your head would sweep like
But
one inch.
now they have the ground is this kind of rubbery styrofoam material.
Breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, but
You
again,
like that, don't you?
no, but I'm just
No,
saying
I'm not
it
for
does
that.
protect the kids.
I sleep in parks. I like that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
All right, everyone, one more thing is up next.
Now you're all in big, big trouble.
Outrage in Alabama after games that most of us grew up playing, like dodgeball, tag, and musical chairs, were told to be off limits. The state superintendent is now trying to calm down angry parents, saying it's up to public schools to decide their own physical education activities. Okay, you guys, so apparently 2 years ago, the state of Alabama issued guidance and said that during physical education classes at these schools, you literally could not play like tag and Red Rover and dodgeball and these fun, normal games. And some of the reasons cited were, it makes people feel uncomfortable, they get hurt, they're left out, whatever. But the superintendent now came in and he basically was like, look, this wasn't on my watch. You guys do you. So, okay, here's my question. So, Greg.
Yes.
Growing up on the peninsula, what was recess like for you? I feel like I can imagine you being a total maniac and everyone picking you.
We were an unusual school. We had a fight club where we pit one child against another child in a bare-knuckled cage match, and the one that survived could then have lunch, and then they did have to pit. It was ugly. Only 2 kids made it out of that school. I think they should change dodgeball so that everybody gets a ball, and instead of throwing it at people, you just hug it in a dark room listening to soft jazz.
That's nice.
Wasn't that nice?
Meditation.
Yes.
Okay, so Dana, what about you? What was your favorite recess activity in Colorado?
I was thinking about this
You
morning.
were getting high a lot.
I was at the smokers. No, I wasn't. That was Lawrence. No, not the smokers. Mom, no.
No.
I'm not. Mom, she's not. Okay.
Taking strange rides on planes.
Do you remember tetherball?
Yes, love tetherball.
Tetherball was like, and I liked it so much that my mom and dad put one in our backyard in Parker, Colorado, where we grew up. I also love Foursquare.
Foursquare was great. Should have been an Olympic sport.
And I also did love kickball. I was actually pretty good. I was pretty fast.
Wow.
Fast runner.
I can see that, like zipping around.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lawrence, in Dallas, what was the scene like for you?
There was a scene.
Describe it for us.
Well, we dominate in all sports, and so everyone is getting prepared for the whole sports routine. But honestly, though, I think eliminating these activities is why the stress level for these kids are going so up. They have no diversity. They have to get rid of that. And, you know, maybe you fall down and you scratch your knee and all that, but you get back up and you go. But right now, everybody wants a participation trophy. Everybody wants to be, coddled. And I think it's just destroying the next generation.
Yeah. So in Brooklyn, Juan, growing up, A, set the scene, and B, what changes do you see there? I know you love your grandkids, you talk about them a lot. What changes do you see between your recess activities and how you grew up and what they're engaged in now?
Well, I don't think I've ever been in their playground. But I think,
Thank God, Juan.
But I think things are more organized now, as we see by what the Alabama School District was trying to do. Because, I like dodgeball and Red Rover and all that stuff. I thought that was a whole lot of fun. But I do know that people got embarrassed, even humiliated, and once in a while somebody would end up with a knot on their head because they got hit in the wrong spot or fell on their face, etc. So, I guess I don't know if it's because we're a more litigious society and the school district wants to protect itself. I don't know. But I don't think this is about kids being snowflakes today, because I mean,
it is.
In Brooklyn, kids would fight and kids still fight. I mean, that just goes on. I prefer, by the way, things like, races, stickball. I mean, we used to play those games too. What's wrong with that?
Well, the other thing I loved were the
monkey bars?
Gymnastic bars. Well, monkey bars, but not the monkey, like the ones that you climb across, the monkey bars, but just the solid one across, because I could do a daddy backflip, no, a granddaddy backflip, like whatever.
Yeah,
what was that called?
I literally was, I mean, I can throw up just thinking about
it. Would give my mom a heart attack all the time, because it was like the bottom was just gravel. But
yeah, but you know what?
Your head would sweep like
but you know,
inch.
now they have the ground is this kind of rubbery styrofoam material.
Yes.
Yeah. But
you
again,
like that, don't you?
No, but I'm just saying it does protect the kids.
I sleep in parks. I like that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
All right, everyone, one more thing is up next.